an alumna from our pioneering class of 2001, Zhuman Wang, returns home to us now. Zhuman Wang is a senior counsel at the World Bank, working on climate change policy, carbon finance, and low-carbon development. She is the team leader for the Partnership for Market Readiness, a newly established fund for piloting innovative market instruments to enhance and improve climate mitigation efforts. She was the lead author of the World Bank's 2010 World Development Report, Development and Climate Change. Prior to working at the World Bank, Zhuman was with the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity in Montreal, Canada, working on the Biosafety Protocol and on trade and environment. Before that, she worked at the UN Climate Change Secretariat in Bonn, Germany, where she was responsible for climate negotiations and the compliance regime. Prior to her tenure at the UN, Zhuman worked for her home country at the Treaty and Law Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China as a key negotiator for the Climate Change Convention and other environmental agreements. Her publications have covered climate change as well as the intersection of trade and environment. She earned her Master of Laws degree at the Wuhan University in China, and of course, her Master of Arts degree from the Global Master of Arts program from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy.
Dean Nutter, thank you for this nice introduction. I'm just so happy to be back. Dean, Nutter, just you said, I feel this like my home. And on the way here, Professor Sipling mentioned that you must be so happy to be this side rather than your side. I said, well, not really. Actually, I wish I could be one of you. I wish I could do another GMAP. So, dear GMAPers, dear professors, today is a day for celebration, and it's a day for cherishing what you have accomplished after a year of hard work and personal sacrifice. Today is a day for joy and huge relief. Yes, you made it. Congratulations. From now on, perhaps you can feel a little bit easy in your personal life. No need to rush to log on GMAP count and to participate in class discussions or listen to professors' lectures. Perhaps you can even drink a glass of wine with peace in your mind. However, I can assure you, not too long, you will find yourself suffering, as I called this GMAP nostalgia, as many of us who graduated earlier actually have suffered and still are suffering. You would long for and miss this intensity of learning and long for this highly intellectual debate with your GMAPers and with your professors. And indeed, GMAP takes you away from your mundane part of your life. Yes, it's hard work, but GMAP opens a new world and opens your mind to understand the world better and to see the world in different perspectives. From time to time, I ask myself why GMAP is so special. You know, I'm Chinese. I was brought up in China and educated in China. And GMAP actually was, in fact, the most intense American education I have received so far. My experience with GMAP actually make me think about, also compare with Chinese education system and American education system, and make me actually see the strengths of American education system and also the weakness and vice versa. So I would like to use this opportunity to share with you my personal thoughts and my observations. A recent international test shows that students in Shanghai scored top in mathematics, whereas American students were really far behind, only ranking number 17. Taken together with other developments in China, obviously you can imagine this comparison generates a lot of anxiety here in this country about the rise of China and declining of the superpower. It is true that Chinese students work much harder than American students, at least, I have to at least, not probably in the university, at least in elementary and high schools. I'm always amazed that how early school, actually high schools or elementary school here finish, and how much time students here actually would spend on sports and rather than doing study compared with what's happening in China. I remember in my time, when I was in high school, that was many years ago, I used to get up 6 o'clock in the morning to practice English, and the school finished 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and I would continue another 4 and 5 hours doing study. And all my classmates actually did the same, as their parents actually would really require them to do long-hour studies. You must have, or you may have heard about this Tiger Mother and this book about written by a Chinese-American law professor from Yale about her brutal Chinese way of educating her 2 daughters. While you have probably also seen some online debates and many articles, American parents actually are shocked and even angry with this kind of her brutality. I would say many Chinese would agree with me that this is really nothing at all unusual in China. In fact, her approach simply reminds me of my own mother, who not allow actually any distraction from my studies, no watching TV, no movies at all. So a typical description of good Chinese student in China would be studying hard, listening to teachers, and getting good scores. The Chinese approach to education certainly has some merits. Repetitive practice and memorization, in particular at the early age of children, lay out a very important foundation. But on the other hand, this approach, which I experienced firsthand, does not encourage children, does not encourage students' curiosity, nor stimulate a way of innovative thinking. Students are passive listeners and recipients of information. And it's very usual, it's very common in China. Chinese students would take note of every word a teacher or professor says and memorizing them. Yes, Chinese students may score high, but we should also look through the high scores and ask the questions. Have students learned any skills of inquisitive analysis? Have the students developed independent observations and perspectives? Let me also share with you another personal experience. My son, who is now 4 years old, was born in the US and currently goes to a preschool in Washington, D.C. And my sister's son, who is 1 year younger, just 3 years old, lives in Beijing and goes to a daycare in Beijing. And my sister's son can easily count from 1 to 100 and can do some basic mathematics and also recognize many Chinese characters. Whereas my son, being parents, they're how proud of your own child. You think your child is the smartest in the world, but can barely count from 1 to 20. So I'm very worried, so I went to the school and asked teacher something wrong with this whole school system, and also told the teacher about my sister's son's achievement. And the teacher simply said, relax. Let children be children. The more important at a young age is how actually encourage them to see the world in their own eyes. And it's more important is character building, the confidence building. And then he invited me to observe some of his classes. And I must say, it's eye-opening for Chinese parents from what I have seen. So what I have learned from the observations of my son's preschool is that children in the US, even from a very young age, learn and are encouraged by their teachers to think without boundaries and to be creative, to be confident, and to feel comfortable to express themselves as unique individuals. And I feel this is exactly what the Chinese education system lacks, and exactly what I have learned from the GMAP, though very late age of my time. President Obama, in this year's State Union speech, invoked the old phrase of this Sputnik moment to challenge Americans to compete with emerging economies such as China. He asked the question, how to win the future? And the answer is education, education, and education. I have no intention to be too critical of the Chinese system. As I previously said, I do see the merits of this system, and the solid Chinese students' solid mathematics skills and knowledge and studying hard builds important foundation for future development. But on the other hand, if the Chinese system is not reformed to encourage more creativity, independence of students, then China will not become a nation of innovation, objective that China strives to achieve. The US, on the other hand, has the best universities in the world, as we all have experienced from GMAP. But it too, I would say, may not rest on the laurels unless it pays more attention and provide more resources to its elementary education in public schools. So, dear GMAPers, no matter where you come from, we are fortunate that we benefit from the best part of the US education. Why GMAP is special? GMAP not only gives us knowledge, but also teach us of creative way of thinking and being innovative. Indeed, creating of the GMAP is a very illustration of such innovation. For that, I'm sure you would all agree with me that we should be grateful to Dean Nutter and your team to make GMAP happen and offer us this great opportunity to learn and interact with GMAPers and an excellent group of professors. Thank you. For GMAP students, graduates, yes, class has now finished. However, what we have learned from GMAP will stay us all our lives. GMAP learning give us wings, as we say in Chinese. Give us wings would enable us fly and fly higher. Thank you, and again, congratulations.
You can imagine how excited we were that morning that the very first GMAP class came into the Hall of Flags. We had no idea what this class would be like, what kind of people they would be like, if they'd enjoy the program, if the program would even work. But when we saw people like Juman enter the Hall of Flags and greeted them, we knew we were home free, as they say. We knew right away. So thank you so much. Well, now is the time for you to join Juman as alumni. So I'm going to ask Emma Heffern to come to the podium. She is going to pronounce your names. She's going to give you your degrees. Juman and I are going to pose for you for a photograph, and then you're going to have an opportunity to go down and say thank you to each one of your faculty. So what's over here is best?